Okay, I'm gonna make a motion decoy, and I have these old duck butt decoys that I never use, and I thought, wow, what can I do with those? And I saw something online that said something about a weasel ball, where you put one battery in it, you turn this thing on, and it moves like that. Very erratic, but it rolls back and forth. I don't want to break it. So my thought is I'm going to take a hot soldering iron, and I'm going to cut a line across there and open this part of the decoy up like a flap, drop that thing inside, and of course I'm not going to cut it all the way around, but hopefully I've got enough spring back to pull it back into place, and let that thing bobble around in there, and it's going to make this thing rock back and forth like an actual feeding duck. So we'll see how this turns out here in a second. Well, that hot knife idea didn't work all that well. This stuff's a lot thicker than I thought it was, so it takes quite a bit to get down through there. So I went with a drywall knife, actually a keyhole saw, and I saw through it, and it does quite well. So I went around almost to this middle of the back. So now I'm going to continue on around the other way and see how that works. So bear with me here. The deal is it's got to be big enough for this ball to fit inside, so got to make sure I'm getting a big enough diameter circumference on it, but not so big that it'll take on water. Sorry about that. No, not quite. I'm afraid it's going to break. I got to get a little bit further back. It's thick plastic, that's for sure. Well, I think what I may end up doing is doing a trap door kind of like a Mojo has, because this just doesn't want to get flexible for me. So do a little more cutting here. Oh well. Let's see if we can clean that up a little bit and make it work just a little bit better. See what happens here. Nope, still not enough. The thickest part of that decoy is where the wings overlap and fold. That's just real solid plastic there. So I may just have to cut it all the way off and create a hinge flap of some sort right there. There it goes. It is going to break though. See, it'll hold itself because it's about to break. So I'm going to have to cut that off and That's what I want right there. Look at all that plastic left over for repairs. Alright, let me clean these edges up a little bit. What I did is I used this drywall hole saw and basically cut around it and left me a really rough edge, as you can see on this part here. It's kind of all sawtooth hanging off of there, but that'll scrape all right off. Just pick that off with my nail. But I'll clean it all up. But here's the part that I like. The ball fits right inside. And if I turn it on, here's what it's going to do. I'm just barely balancing this thing, but as you can see, it's going to move around inside there. So it's going to make this thing move back and forth, and it's going to create motion in the decoys, and that's my objective. So what do you use those duck butts for? Here's a good idea. I'm probably going to have to come up with some sort of a strap or something right here. I don't know, use a piece of wire or shoelace or something to get that to stay in place, and maybe a rubber band or something back here to hold this down so that when it moves it stays closed. If I can get it just like that, I'd be real happy with. But anyway, we'll see what happens here. Okay, here's what I think is my final modification. We're going to do a little test run. This is a water weighted keel. Almost dropped it. It's a water weighted keel, which means that has to fill up with water before it stays bottom heavy and stays upright. So placement's going to mean getting it in position right. As you can see, I just drilled a couple of holes through here and ran some safety wire, stainless steel safety wire through to make a kind of a makeshift hinge. And then as I pull it back and put it into place, I can latch it on the back right here and hold it closed once I set it off. So we're going to do a test run here in the pond. Just let me get it closed up and I'll restart up. Okay, try and do this without losing my phone in the water. The water level's down in this pond, if you haven't noticed yet. She's listening, Captain. Make sure I didn't get, oh, I did get water in there. Don't want that. So the trick here is get them bubbles come out, which means that keel weighted will hold itself. And it ain't gonna float right, is it? It's gonna sink. Okay, here's the last revision for today anyway. I did move that screw over to be a little more center line. So now it's got an extra little peephole back there, a weep hole, something. But also what I did is I added a couple of non-lead truck weights. They're pretty heavy. I don't know what they weigh, but they're pretty stout. And that should be more than enough to weigh the bottom of this down and make it float. So I'm gonna make every attempt to make that happen right now after I turn it on. How's that for some motion in your decoys? I think I'll do a little touch up around that cut edge because you can see the ring there, but nonetheless it's making little bitty ripples across this pond. You can't see them, but on the a couple of places I hunt, we get flat water like this, and if you don't have something out there that just looks like decoys. So putting this in between half dozen regular floaters or feeders or anything like that, put this in the middle of them, and you'll get enough action to make it look realistic. So we'll find out this weekend. I'm anxious.